Hello and welcome to today's BITRIX24 webinar, Perfect Project Management. Thank you very much for joining today. Okay, so first of all, we'll just go through some introductions. So my name's Sam Connor. I'm Sales Manager here at Interface, and we're based. Hello and welcome to today's BITRIX24 webinar, Perfect Project Management. Thank you very much for joining today. Okay, so we'll just go through some introductions first of all. So I am Sam Connor, Sales Manager here at Interface, and we're based in the UK, the US and Hong Kong. What we do is we offer a full range of services to assist you with BITRIX24. So starting off with pre-sale support. So what we can do is help you to evaluate BITRIX24, see if it's a good fit for what you're trying to achieve. Okay, and with that we can then provide very honest recommendations and potentially workarounds if your requirements can be adapted into BITRIX24 if it's not a standard functionality. And if you're then happy BITRIX24 is the right product, we can then provide our implementation services. So we can design out your BITRIX24 system and get it working exactly how you need it to work. Now, if you're interested in the self-hosted edition of BITRIX, then we can provide our hosting service for you if you don't want to host yourself. And we also provide training and ongoing dedicated support to ensure businesses get the most possible value out of the BITRIX24 system. Okay, so if you have come to today's webinar to actually get some more information about BITRIX24, let's just go through what BITRIX24 actually is. So BITRIX24, it's a collaboration suite of well over 35 different tools that you can use to manage your business. And there are over 12 million customers now around the world that use the BITRIX24 system, and it's available in two different editions. So we have the BITRIX24 Cloud and we have the BITRIX24 self-hosted solution. And throughout today's webinar, we'll touch on all of the functionality available in both of the systems. There may be some functionality that is only available on the self-hosted system, so we'll point those out as we go through today's webinar. And in terms of pricing, so prices start from $49 per month for a cloud-based license. That starts on the basic cloud. And then on the self-hosted, it starts with the Business 50 edition, which is priced at $3,590 in year one. And then in year two and ongoing annually, you'll pay a renewal fee, which is approximately 25% of the license fee. So it's important to take that into consideration if you're looking at the self-hosted license. Okay, so today's webinar is Perfect Project Management. So we'll be looking at all of the features and functionality within BITRIX24 that you can use to manage your projects. So before we go into this, it's important to understand why you should use BITRIX24 for your projects. So first of all, we have project work groups. Project work groups are really useful to have a centralized area for every single project. So you have a secure environment where you can store all of the tasks, the communications, the drive documents connected to the project. So all of that information is saved in its own portal area for you. We have a really nice task management system, so you can manage all of the tasks connected to your projects and create stages and automations to progress those tasks. And we also have project automation. So in today's webinar, we'll look at several different ways we can automate the creation of projects inside BITRIX to streamline, save time and reduce human error. We'll also look at the workload management features, so how you can manage the involvement of your staff amongst many different projects that you're running inside BITRIX. And then we'll look at the Gantt charts and reporting metrics that are available inside the system. Now, another really nice feature is the external user feature within BITRIX24. So what you can do, as well as you can invite in your clients, for example. So if you're running customer projects, you can invite in your client as an external user, so they could have access to their project inside the system. And with that functionality, they are classed as a seat on the system. Okay, so that's something to bear in mind. If you are wanting to add your clients, then you need to understand what tier of license you're on, because that will determine the number of seats you have. And then from there, you can use your seats for external users who could then access their particular projects. Okay, so that is a little there about why we should use BITRIX24 for our project. So let's now deep dive into those project groups where we can centralize all of the information connected to our projects inside the system. So let's move over to our BITRIX24 system. And first of all, let's take a look at the view where we can see all of our projects inside the system. Okay, so what we can do on the left hand side, we can go into our work group about our projects. So here we can see every single project that is being worked on inside the system, and you can filter through this information. So if you have a lot of projects that are being managed through BITRIX, you can filter through this information. You could use tags to enable you to drill down or look at archived or present projects. So you can use the filtering tool here to drill down. So I might want to look at all of the projects associated with the sales team. I can drill down into that information really easily using the filtering tool. Okay, and so what we can do from there is I can click into the projects, and then I can see all of the information connected to the project here inside the system. But before we go into look at a project in too much detail, let's just see how we can create a new project inside the system. So here we can see when I click on the create button, this opens up our page to create a new project inside the system. And we have two different types here. So you have the project type and you have the work group type. So the key difference here between these different types of projects essentially is on a project you would have a start and an end date. Okay, so any tasks within that project, they need to be completed by the end date of the project. You can't have a task that overruns past the end date of the project. And we also have work groups. Okay, so work group is again it's an area where you can store tasks, manage a project essentially, but there is no start or end dates on a work as well. So that's really where you could then manage your own centralized area for each department. Okay, so let's go into here. Now we can start to create our new project inside the system. So let's call this here about our project. We need to give this a title. So let's call this March 2024 webinar prep, and add a description. Okay, and then inside here as well, you can add an icon and a visual theme as well. And then through here, we can then, in the extended parameters, we can add more information about the project. So inside here, I'm adding our start and end dates for the project. I could choose a subject as well, which we can then use for filtering later on. And then we can also add and create tags. Okay, so tags are really useful for filtering and reporting on. So this is going to be a project to prepare for the next webinar. So I'm going to create a tag and tag it to the webinar features there. Okay, and then moving down here, this is the features area. So this is really useful to enable you to manage what functionality you would like inside your project. So for example, I might want to store tasks inside the project, so I can turn on the task feature, and I might want to store documents as well, so let's turn on the drive area. But then you can turn on and turn off different functionality inside the project, and you can always come back to this. So if you're one of the administrators or have permissions, you could come back into here and turn on and turn off different functionality later on inside the project as well. Okay, so let's now move on to the next section. So here's the privacy area. So inside here, we can select what privacy level we would like for the project. Okay, so first of all, we have our public. So this is where anyone inside the BITRIX system can see that project and they can join that project. A private project, this is private essentially, so it's invitation only, but you can request to access by invite to the project. And then there's hidden. So hidden means the project will not even be accessible from your page on BITRIX24. Okay, so what we can then do inside the system is, that is a really the highest level of permission within the BITRIX24 project page. So what we would do inside here is we would set up your access rights, so you can only be invited into that project. You're not able to request an invitation. So let's keep this at the medium level, which is the private level there. Okay, and then we can add our ownership levels. So on a project in BITRIX, you have a project owner, first of all, who is the owner of the project. They are the highest tier of management on that project. You can then have project moderators as well. Okay, and then we can continue with the project. And that's now created the project inside the system here. And now we can see all of the features that have been enabled that we can then start working on inside the system. Okay. But let's go into a project that is already live and is being worked on right now, so we can really see the in-depth functionality inside the project area. So first of all, we have our tasks area. So this is really the most important aspect of a project inside BITRIX24. So inside here, we can see all of the tasks associated to the project. And as an owner here of the project, I can customize the UI here for the information that is displayed. So I might want to show certain information. So you can customize the UI here for the project. But what's really nice within BITRIX is the number of different ways you can view those tasks inside the system. So I could also view this in a Kanban view. So what we can do for the project is you can create different stages for your tasks. So as you can see here, we've got pending start, in progress, amendments, etc. So you can create all of the stages that you require for your project tasks. And then I can progress the project through those different stages like so. So it's really your own project Kanban view. So every project can have its own separate stages here in the Kanban. Okay, so that's a really nice way to be able to manage all of the tasks across the project. We also have the deadline view. Okay, so this is probably my favorite view for managing tasks inside BITRIX, because here, once you set a deadline on that task, then it will automatically be placed in the relevant stage based on the deadline of the task. So I can see what's overdue right now. I can see what's due today and what's due this week. So this view here at a very high level, it gives you that overview of what needs to be focused on the project right now. So I can see these. And what's nice as well is you can click straight into the task from the pages here. Okay, we also have a planner view. So inside here, I can create my own personalized stages that I progress my tasks through. Okay, so inside here, say if I'm moving to the review stage, that task, I can create or delete stages. This does not impact any other person inside the project. Okay, so all of those different tasks here that you're creating the stages for on your planner view, that is your unique view inside the project for yourself. So really nice to be able to have so many different views for your projects. Okay, we also have the calendar view. So I can see all of our tasks based on the deadlines here. Again, you can click into those directly through the page. And then we also have the Gantt chart view. So this gives you that really high level overview of all of the tasks in a Gantt chart format. So you can see there may be 2 or 3 different ways you want to view tasks in a project, or you might like one way and that's the way that you want to use it. So you can really personalize this. So for every person in the project, they can decide what view is most appropriate for themselves. And of course, you've got the planner view, which is completely bespoke to each individual. And then across the top here, as people are adding comments to their messages inside here, then what you're able to do is, if we click into a task, you can see all the information about the task. You can create checklist items. And what you can do inside here is you can leave comments. Okay, so let's say if I leave a comment for a colleague, okay, so I've tagged John in that. And what you'll be able to see is any comments that you're associated with, you'll be able to filter through those. So if you've got a lot of tasks that are currently being worked on, then what you can do is you can filter through those and it will drill down to those specific ones where you've not read the comment yet. And then you can come into here and see those comments. Okay, so that's a really nice way to use the filtering tool to see the latest communication log across your tasks. Okay, so that is a look at the different ways you can view tasks, and if you want to create new tasks inside the project, you can click on the create button, and then inside here you can add the task title, you can add a description, and you can also add checklist items. So there may be several different items that need to be completed that are associated to the task. So you can add all of that information into here. Okay. And again, you can add documents as well. So really everything about that task, all the different types of information, you'll be able to store inside the task page here. And then on the task, you have a responsible person, but you can also add participants and also observers, okay, who are maybe just wanting to have an overview of the task, see what stage it's at, see that it's still on track. So you can add observers to the tasks as well. And then you can add your time parameters onto the task. Now, it could be that actually you've got tasks here that are repetitive, and maybe they're done every month. So we work with a lot of accountancy businesses where you're going to have the same tasks every single month that need to be completed, such as audits, etc., monthly tax receipts. So what you can do inside here is you can turn on the repeat feature. So you can decide, say, once every month on the first day of the month, choose the day it starts. You can automatically have that task repeated inside the system. Okay, and what you can also do is once you've created a task, you can save it as a template as well. So then I can open up the task and it's going to have all of the information that we've already added, such as the details, the documents, and the checklist in there. So that's a really quick way to save time, is by saving your task as a template, and then you can use that again in the future. Okay, so that is a look at tasks inside the project here. Now, if you're wanting to be able to, maybe if you're about to add more tasks into a project, you need to see the workload that your team has available. You can click into the involvement chart here, and this will show you at a very high level what tasks each person within the organization is currently working on. So this gives you the ability to see who has capacity to be able to take on new tasks inside our project. So this involvement chart gives you that high level analysis, and you can go into the supervising view here and you'll see the person's efficiency score. Okay, so this gives you a score to say essentially how many tasks they're working on that are on track or have been completed on time. The lower the score, the more tasks that are past due, over their deadline, and essentially they need more support to help them to complete their tasks. So really you wanted to be looking at people who've got a high efficiency score that you could then make responsible for future tasks. And you can filter through this information. So I can see who we really need to focus and get some support to get their efficiency score back on track. Inside our project area. Okay, so here we have our feed section. Essentially, a feed section is like a personalized newsfeed board for that particular project. So inside here, I might go and add a new conversation. Okay, so I'm going to post this message out to the rest of the project team. So rather than having endless email chains or external chats, you can manage the whole communication log directly inside the system here on that feed and then on individual posts. Okay, so let's send those messages out there. So that's all now saved inside the system. And inside here you can share documents, recordings, etc. So if you're wanting to keep people up to date, share the latest information, you can do that through the feed section here, and you'll see all of that history saved inside the feed section, which you can then also filter through as well. So you can search through this area as well to find specific posts. We've also got our chat feature. So this is really nice, again, directly inside the project, and you've got a really nice UI here for the chat tool. So inside here, we can add a new message. Okay, so we've got an instant chat tool. You can also do voice calls and video calls through the system here. So it's really nice to have all of these different types of communication channels directly inside the project. We've also got a drive area. So inside here, you can really nice to have the capability here to store documents directly inside the project. So I can add new documents into the system here, and we can also set access rights. So you might only want certain people, like moderators and owners, to be able to access this, or for example, I might say any external users can have a share access on that document, for example. So you can customize this permission structure in the document area. We've also got a calendar display, so to manage all of the events and meetings associated to the project, so you can create new events directly inside the system here. And then we also have lists. So lists are essentially where we can create and store tables of information associated to the project. So for example, here we have an expenses list. So you can create the fields that you want to store information about, and then you can have that information managed inside the system. What's really useful with lists is you can create workflows. So for example, in here where we've got our expenses, I could run an approval process to send this to the project manager to either approve or reject that new expense in the system. And then I can filter through this and see everything that's currently pending on the project. So that's a really nice way to be able to store additional information about the project. Okay, so that is a look inside a project. Let's just see if we have any questions about our project area. Okay, so we see a few questions that have come in here. So how can we set permissions across the project? So we have kind of just seen that, for example, in the drive area, okay, where we're storing documents inside the project. But if you're wanting to set permissions really at a high level across the entire project, then we can do this in the project settings area. So I can click into the project here, and then we can see we've got a role and permissions section. Okay, so inside here we can assign permissions on the project owner, moderators, and then all of the other participants, because we've got those 3 roles associated to the project. And then you can set those permissions down to a very granular level. So it's broken down into the calendar area, tasks, drive. So let's say, for example, on tasks, who's able to create tasks inside this project? What I may say, for example, is only the owner of the project is able to create tasks. I don't want any other people who are going to be creating tasks. It's down to the owner of the project. So that's where we can set those project parameters. So you can go very granular in terms of the permission structure on the project. Okay, so that's a really good question. If there are any other questions, please do add them into the question boxes and we can run through those for you. Okay, so moving on, we're going to look now at automation. So automation is really important inside BITRIX because this allows you to get rid of some of those manual actions that you're currently doing inside the business, whether it's creating endless projects, having to add people and manage all of the tasks. That's quite a laborious process. So there's a lot of human error that could be brought into having to set up projects. There's a lot of time and repetitive work. So we can use automations inside BITRIX to really streamline the entire process and save you significant amount of time. Okay, so what we got, I'm going to show a few different ways here how we can automate the creation of a project. So first of all, to essentially create the project inside the system. And in this particular example, we've got certain fields that need to be completed. Okay, so I'm going to add the manager for the project, and then we've got another role here for the designer who's going to be designing all the tasks, and let's add the project deadline. Okay, and then we've got the option here to add a document, so you can see what fields are mandatory, what are optional, and then we've got the type here. So the type essentially is deciding what type of project this is, and based on this, it's a condition. So based on what we select, that's going to trigger the creation of specific tasks inside that project. So that can be really customized. So if within your organization, if there's lots of different types of projects that you run, you could create that as a condition in here. So every time you select a specific type of project, it's going to create those specific tasks inside the system. So let's now submit that new request. And what that will now do is we can start the acceptance process. So I need to add the additional deadline onto here for when we expect to have the project completed. And let's now approve that project in the system. And what we'll see is if we go into our workgroup area, okay, so we can see now that has created the project March 2024. And inside here, there are the tasks that are having to manually manage the creation of your projects. You can manage the automation process here. And then let's take another way we can automate the creation of projects. And it's in a slightly different area here. This is in the CRM system. Okay. So what we have the ability to do here is using the smart process automation feature. So you need to have at least a professional cloud license to be able to do this. You can create a new entity inside the CRM system called projects, for example. And then inside here, once a deal has been won, we can then automatically see inside the system here. So if we go into one of our deals, and then inside here, I can go into automation rules. So you can see here, as soon as the deal is won, we're automatically creating a new project record inside the project area, all encompassed inside the CRM system. So if we go into our web service setup deal that we're currently about to close and win, I'm going to move this now to the 1 stage before the project can be set up inside the system. So you can put rules in place on those fields, for example. But if you don't, what you can also do is, if I just show you here, you can remove those rules as well as an admin by clicking into here. But that's a really nice way to ensure you've got the right information saved at the right stage of the deal before the project is created. So let's now win that deal. And then if we go into our project management area, we'll see now that the web service setup project has now just been created. And I can click into the project and it's created all of the tasks to be managed on that project to begin with here. So I can see the automation of that project, and now we can progress the project through here. Then what I can do is I can see all of the projects connected to the system. Okay, so if we go into the project area, I can see all the projects connected to that customer. So you've got that really nice connection between the client and the project inside the system. Okay, so a question that's come in is, can we add swim lanes in the Kanban view? Not too sure if you could explain a little around what you mean by swim lanes, then we can provide some more context for you. But essentially, the Kanban view inside your projects, it's essentially that view essentially. So you create the stages that you progress your tasks through, and then that is essentially how the Kanban view works. So if we click back into one of our projects in that Kanban view, Here we essentially, these are all the tasks associated to the project, and we then progress the tasks through the relevant stages. Now, inside this Kanban view, what we can do is we can set up automations. Okay, so for example, let's say if we have here the overdue stage for our tasks. Okay, what we can do in the Kanban view on those stages is we can set up automations. Okay, so first of all, we can set up triggers. So a trigger will automatically update what stage the task is at. Okay, so for example, if that task has not been completed and the task passes its deadline, then it's going to automatically, no matter what stage it is at in that Kanban view, it will move it to the overdue stage because we have a trigger set up. And on that trigger stage here for overdue, we've got some automations then set up. So we're going to automatically change who is responsible for the project. So that is going to automatically move it to a senior manager to get this task back on track. And we're also going to set up notifications here to notify the whole team that that task now needs to get back on track. So you can use a mixture of triggers and automation rules to really help you to proactively complete tasks in the timely manner within that project. So that can be used using automation rules on the Kanban view. But essentially, yeah, within the Kanban view here, you create the stages and then you can progress your tasks through those relevant stages as you are completing tasks on the project. Okay, so that is a good question to have there around the Kanban view. And then as we've just seen there, we can then, within the CRM system, we can create the automated project with stages for the actual project using that smart process automation feature. Okay, so as you've seen there, there's a lot of really powerful automations that we can set up inside the BITRIX24 system. And then moving on, we briefly mentioned this during sections of today's webinar, and that's the ability to have external users. Okay, so an external user is essentially a third party, whether that's a client, a vendor, etc., that you want to bring into a specific project. And you can set permissions to control what they're able to access. But what we can then see here in the external portal, we can see the client has access to a particular project. So you can see the UI is very different for an external user. So they would only have access to the project that you have given them access to. And then within those projects, again, as we saw earlier, where we can set permissions, you can really control what level of functionality they have inside the project. So you might give them full visibility and access to create tasks, etc. You might lower down the permissions that they're able to manage. So inside here, they can see all the information about the project and the tasks. They can add their own comments. If we go into the drive area, you can see this is a lot more restricted compared to what we just saw inside the project view. So we've set more granular permissions inside the drive area to control what they're able to access. Okay. And so that is the external portal area for the client to be able to access the projects that they're associated with. But we can essentially give them all the workgroup features that we've already looked at today, or you can go more granular and limit the access rights, but they do not have access to any of the internal areas of BITRIX24. Okay, and that does bring me on to mention some of the self-hosted benefits. Okay, so with the self-hosted system, it's a more advanced edition of BITRIX24 compared to the cloud system. And with the self-hosted system, where that client is logging in to their external user feature, what you can do is you can brand up the system. Okay, so for the portal where they're going to log in, that could have your own branding. Okay, so we can remove the BITRIX24 branding, have your own branded portal site here, and it can be your own domain, such as company.portal.com. So that's a really beneficial feature for your clients who are going to be accessing that project. And then we can also create more advanced customizations. So if we go back into the external portal here, we can create widgets and links to the other modules, for example, and customize the whole UI really with the self-hosted edition, which you can't do on the cloud-based edition. Okay, so that is the end of today's Perfect Project Management webinar. So we've seen how we can use work groups to manage all of our separate projects and all the tasks connected to the projects. We've seen how we can use the automation features to automate the creation of projects and tasks inside the system. And we've seen the external user feature, so that ability to invite people into specific projects and collaborate with them through the system. So you're really building out a professional customer service approach for managing client projects inside BITRIX24. So here are a selection of our up and coming webinars. We're here every other Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I hope you can join us in the future. You can register at www.interface.com/webinars. And thank you for joining today. The recording will be on YouTube very shortly if you need to catch up. And if you do have any other questions in the meantime, you can contact us, sales@interface.com, and one of our team will be happy to help you. Okay, thank you very much for your time today.